All right, we're back at it again. All right, seeing the place to be. Rick Saratella here, telling it like it is when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin for the All Access Football Daily Show. We are live here, September 18th, 2025. Buckle up, hunker down. It's our 18th episode of the All Access Football Daily Show. We welcome you so much and appreciate you having us in your viewing monitor, wherever you may be watching on Facebook, YouTube, or X. Looks like we might have a little bit of a streaming issue on X. I hope that's not the case. But hey, buckle up for an hour of power. I'm flying solo today. No special guests. Our good friend Bo Marchant will check in on Friday's edition. Of course, NFL Draft Bible Familia, a scout up there with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Also covers the beat for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You can check out his work at collegetopro.com. He'll be here tomorrow to talk everything pigskin. We'll even dive into a little CFL. But today, we're going to get into, of course, NFL injuries, which seems to be popping up on the daily. And we're going to get into the college football action, probably in the B block. Going to do a deep dive around the college football landscape. A lot of good matchups here for us to talk about. So let's get into it, shall we? Rick Saratella here on this September 18th edition. And man, oh man, NFL Week 3, we could see 5 backup quarterbacks already starting in the saddle. I'll tell you, we talked about it with Howard Balzer on yesterday's show. The most important position in football is the quarterback position. The second most important position in football is the backup quarterback, because if you do not have a plan, the season can blow up on you very, very quickly. So we'll talk about some teams that are prepared, some teams who are not prepared, and what it all means for the NFL Week 3. So Cincinnati, Minnesota, Jets, Commanders, 49ers, all down a starting quarterback. And we started off on the left coast, the West Coast, not necessarily the best coast, but Brock Purdy suddenly now has a chance to play, according to head coach Kyle Shanahan. He did some light throwing during the individual portion of the practice early on, and he's nursing that toe and shoulder injury. So Shanahan providing a little bit of hope here for the 49ers as they take on the 2-0 Arizona Cardinals. And, Purdy was also asked about his status this upcoming Sunday, and he said, we'll see. So no sure thing, but there is hope here. Now, Mac Jones played very well in the relief of Brock Purdy, and the 49ers did have a plan at the backup quarterback position. Mac Jones has started a lot of ball games in the NFL. 279 yards, 3 touchdowns last week. Now, if Purdy can't go, Adrian Martinez, remember him? Longtime Nebraska quarterback, Kansas State quarterback. He was circulating around the United Football League there for a minute. Well, I believe he was activated last week to the active roster to be the backup. Then they put him back on the practice squad. Now they will re-elevate him back to the 53-man roster should Purdy not be able to go. And, of course, 49ers are one of those banged-up teams. We talked about it with Howard yesterday. Christian McCaffrey had the day off. He's resting that calf injury. Trent Williams also had the day off as he's nursing a knee injury. Jawan Jennings had the day off as he's nursing a shoulder injury. And Kyle Juszczyk, who's in the concussion protocol, did not practice at all. And starting linebacker Ben Barch was moved to the injured reserve. He'll miss 4 games. So the 49ers, just like last year, just trying to get by, holding on for dear life. The infirmary report is adding up in a big way. So we'll see how it shakes out for the 49ers in their Week 3 contest against the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Cincinnati's holding out hope for Joe Burrow, and that's not for this Sunday, but that'll be for just to return at the end of the season. They're not counting it out. They're holding on to hope. I saw somewhere, sorry I don't have the source, but 230 sacks that Joe Burrow has taken since 2020. That's an unbelievable amount of hits. In fact, according to my source, that's the most hits, the most sacks that a quarterback has taken within a 5-year span. Now, that's including the playoffs, but 230 sacks since 2020. I mean, what are we doing here, Cincinnati? That's almost 50 to 60 sacks this season, that Joe Burrow. And, it makes you wonder too, like the ancient endangered species that is the pocket passing quarterback in today's NFL. It's so fast, it's so violent, it's so physical. You wonder if you don't have a dual threat skill set, are you just a sitting duck? Because I mean, Burrow now, this is 3 out of 6 years he's going to miss significant time. They're already comparing him to the modern day Andrew Luck, and I hope that doesn't pan out that way because you saw a couple years ago Cincinnati had a pretty good run. Of course, Jake Browning did beat Minnesota in 2023, filling in for Burrow. He was 4-3 as a starter. I also learned that during that game, after the post game, the cameras were on him, and he shouted into the camera, "You should have never effing cut me." And of course, he was speaking to the Minnesota Vikings, where he began on the practice squad. So you think this means something to Jake Burrow? Week 3, Cincinnati, Minnesota. By the way, Carson Wentz, Minnesota, another team down a starting quarterback. Carson Wentz will become the first player in NFL history to start for 6 different teams in 6 straight seasons. So Carson Wentz, Jake Browning, the QB showdown in NFL Week 3 action. Marcus Mariota, he's ready to go, according to the former Heisman Trophy winner. Of course, Washington scheduled to play the Las Vegas Raiders in Week 3, Marcus Mariota's old team. And he was 33 of 41 for 366 yards and 4 touchdowns in relief of Jaden Daniels last year. Now, Daniels didn't miss any starts, but Mariota did get some mop-up duties and played efficient in that Washington Commanders program. And Jaden Daniels right now with the knee injuries just looking day to day. And also I did file over the Business of Football report to my good friend Neil Stratton this morning, which goes out on the Friday wrap over at InsideTheLeague.com. I highly recommend it. It's a free newsletter on the scouting and agent community and the business of football, and just a lot of information, such as the Washington Commanders are the oldest team in terms of average age. And I do have it here for you. I'm going to pull it up for you because I thought that was interesting. They have more players over the age of 30 than anybody in the NFL. So the Commanders here, let's see. Let me pull it up real quick. Their average, they have their roster consists of 6 years of experience for each NFL player. I don't think any other team averaged 6 years of experience on their 53-man roster. This is based on the NFL Week 1 opening kickoff roster. 17 players over the age of 30. That's unbelievable when you think about it. The Green Bay Packers came in as the youngest team, average age 25 years old. And the Minnesota Vikings, who we just talked about, actually have 15 first-year or rookie players. That's nearly 1/3 of the roster in their first or second season there for the Minnesota Vikings. So it could be a rebuilding year for the Vikings, but just some interesting information there, courtesy of the NFL Communications Department. But we continue to update you on the quarterbacks. And one quarterback who is certainly going to be out is Justin Fields, who's been ruled out due to a concussion. So Justin Fields is out. Tyrod Taylor is in. Connor Cook, the Missouri quarterback, gets elevated from the practice squad. And Aaron Glenn said he has faith in Tyrod Taylor against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The 36-year-old Taylor is 28-28-1 in 14 seasons, 7 different teams, and that's what he is. He's a mediocre average quarterback, 57 games started, and it's split right down the middle. 28 wins, 28 losses, 1 tie. So he'll give you a shot, but luckily the Jets are facing the Bucs, who each and every day it just seems like another player they lose. We talked about Kalijah Kancey yesterday, the defensive tackle, out for the season. Tristan Wirfs has been out. Now their other right tackle, Godke's out. Chris Godwin is out. And now the hits just keep on coming because Cody Mauch re-aggravated a knee injury. He's now going to be out for the year. So the Bucs down three starting offensive linemen. I can guarantee you, Will McDonald over there in gangrene is licking his chops. So the Bucks, they did sign Dan Feeney, the veteran out of Indiana, to help patch up that offensive line. But man, Tampa Bay is really treading water. And also Baker Mayfield, he popped up on the injury report as well with a foot and toe injury. Not considered very serious, but he may miss some practice time this week. That Baker Mayfield, who's rallied the Bucks back from two consecutive come from behind victories. So Jets and Bucks, another game of the walking wounded. All right, moving right along. Does that cover the quarterback news? We covered Cincinnati, Minnesota, New York Jets, Washington, and San Francisco. Those are your 5 teams who look like they're going to be starting a backup quarterback. Now, non-quarterback injury news. Khalil Mack, he avoids major injury. Good news for the Chargers there on that Monday Night Football affair. A gruesome injury. Left elbow. Okay, he will need surgery, but this is not expected to end his season. And Jim Harbaugh, head coach of your Los Angeles Chargers, saying he's like the Wolverine. One of the toughest things I've ever seen. Now, remember, Mac came in on a 1-year, $18 million deal. So they're expecting a return on their investment as they wait for him to get healthy. Caleb Murphy, remember the name. Very young, raw, developmental pass rusher out of where? Ferris State via Grand Valley State University. This Caleb Murphy, I remember, I believe it was at the East-West Shrine Bowl. He really showed some quick get-off, kind of twitchy off of the edge. He needed to develop his pass rush repertoire and hand usage. And, you know, he was making plays during the preseason now. A lot of tackles behind the line of scrimmage, sacks. So Caleb Murphy could be an unsung hero this upcoming week for the LA Chargers as they get set to take on the Denver Broncos in an AFC West showdown that will have ramifications in the long run here in NFL Week 3. All right, Xavier Worthy for the Kansas City Chiefs. He dislocated his right shoulder, but he practiced fully yesterday. He is hopeful against the New York Giants, and the Chiefs really need somebody to get healthy over there. Again, Jalen Royals, the rookie's out. Rashee Rice is serving a suspension. And when they're down Xavier Worthy, I mean, you've got Juju Smith-Schusters of the world as your go-to number 1 wideout there in Kansas City. So they get the Giants this week. And, you know, I saw our good friend Carl Banks is one of the senior finalists for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, along with OJ Anderson, 2 good friends. And, you know, Carson said he's a believer in this Giants defense, and he might be going out on a limb, but he believes this Giants defense is going to keep them in games, keep them very competitive. And I would tend to agree with that for this Kansas City Chiefs matchup because they're coming off a slobber knocker against the Eagles. You can see the Kansas City Chiefs have problems along that offensive line. Brian Burns has been playing lights out. You throw him in the mix with Dexter Lawrence, and Kayvon Thibodeau has stepped his game up. I'd like to see Abdul Carter get some more reps. I mean, they got him playing special teams. He's blocking kicks. How about getting him in there on some pass rush situations? Wouldn't mind seeing some NASCAR packages. Maybe they can learn a thing or two while Steve Spagnuolo is visiting, the current Kansas City Chiefs defensive coordinator, because that's what he did down there. If you remember with the Giants and Michael Strahan, Osi Umenora, Justin Tuck, Matias Kiwanuka, they didn't care that they had 5 defensive ends on the field. They just put them all in, NASCAR package, go get after the quarterback. Why aren't the Giants doing that? I'd like to see some of that. Get a little creative and think outside the box instead of this boring, doldrum New York Giants football team that we get on a weekly basis. Now, they did provide some excitement. There were some fireworks against Cowboys in week 2, so maybe I should bite my tongue, Rick. And what a wild game that was. 6 fourth-quarter lead changes, tied for the most in NFL history. Of course, Brandon Aubrey, the NFL secret weapon. This guy is good, like from 70 yards and in. It's an unbelievable weapon that the Dallas Cowboys have. Okay, a couple other injury updates here. I saw Ladd McConkey We mentioned Khalil Mack, Lad McConkey, elbow. He did not practice yesterday, so that's something worth monitoring as well. And also another NFL note here in terms of the Commanders, they will be returning to District of Columbia. Last week I wrote about the Bears, Saints, and Broncos new stadiums over at InsideTheLeague.com. The Friday wrap comes out every Friday at 7 p.m. You can sign up for free over on the website. And I talked about those stadiums. Well, tomorrow's newsletter, I'll be talking about the Commanders' new stadium at the old RFK site, which is just 9 miles away from their current stadium in Landover, Maryland. They're going to move back to the site of RFK. RFK still standing, so that needs to be torn down, but they're going to build a brand new stadium, potentially with a retractable roof. This stadium should be it's projected to be completed by 2030 because DC has their eyes on hosting the Women's World Cup in 2031. So just a little bit of information that you might care about if you're a Washington Commanders fan. Good news for them. All right, I have some other NFL news and notes that I didn't get to yesterday. I don't know if we'll have time at the end of the show to get there, but I have for you outlined. We haven't talked enough college football. We do the college football pregame show on Saturday with our guy Russell Landy, and we highlight the marquee matchups there and bring you the key prospects that you need to know for the upcoming 2026 NFL draft. But there's so many good games on the docket this week, and I figured we'd go around the college football landscape, take a look at some of those top 25 matchups, some of the individual player matchups, some of the guys who are on our radar for the 2026 NFL draft, because that's what we do here at allaccessfootball.com, year-round coverage of the NFL draft and everything pigskin. Of course, today is Thursday, so that means yesterday was the world famous All Access Football Report with all of our power rankings. We got updates on Garrett Nussmeier and Lanaris Sellers, both nursing injuries as well at the college level. The quarterbacks are going down like dominoes here in 2025. And then Monday, we posted our scout notebook, all the prospects from the previous weekend that we wrote up. And Friday, tomorrow, will be our draft insider. And we've got probably about 60 plus prospects highlighted between the Illinois-Indiana game, which is going to be a tremendous matchup. And then also Utah and that game's slipping my mind. I don't have it all off the top of my head. There's a lot of information I'm rattling off to you guys here. Utah and Texas Tech. 17th ranked Texas Tech, 16th ranked Utah. Illinois, number 9, Indiana, number 19. I actually think it should be flipped the other way around. I have Indiana in my top 10, and I think the Hoosiers might blow the hinges off the door against the Illini. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive into the college football action, the names you need to know, and everything else more on the All Access Football Daily Show, live 7 days a week, 10 a.m. Eastern. We appreciate you being here. Please smash that like button while you're tuned in, and we'll be back right after this. Hey, RIC and a place to be. Rick Saratella checking in from the legendary Jersey Shore for the world famous All Access Football, and you're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show, our newest venture here at the world famous All Access Football, read by all 32 NFL teams and 50,000 subscribers from around the world. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work in this great game of football for the past 2 decades. It's our 24th season of providing you independent analysis when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin, whether it's the NFL, college football, NFL draft, CFL, UFL. We'll be with you each step of the way, especially for draft season when we really get into high mode. Of course, it's all brought to you by the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, published in April, featuring over 500 in-depth scouting reports with our boots-on-the-ground analysis. We'll be on location at the All-Star Games, the NFL Scouting Combine, the Pro Day circuit, counting you down to that 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. And be sure you check us out over at allaccessfootball.com. We've got a great promo discount for you listeners at home if you enter our promo code RIC VIP, you'll get a 30% discount off of all of our premium content. You'll unlock the magic. Get our NFL Draft Insider Reports, Scouting Notebook, of course, the World Football All Access Football Report published on Wednesday. It's your new home for real football talk. So follow along, give us a shout. We hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and we'll be with you each and every day here, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off, rain, sleet, hail, snow. The show must go on. For Rick Saratella and the All Access Football Daily Show, keep it locked, everybody. All right, back at it again. RIC in the place to be. Rick Saratella telling it like it is when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin. A block, we just broke down all the news and notes around the NFL. National Football League littered with injuries, including 5 quarterbacks, starting quarterbacks who were down. And, you know, I mentioned the data that the NFL provided us with. I also thought it was interesting in terms of NFL Week 1 starting quarterbacks. 26 of the 32 starting quarterbacks in Week 1 were chosen in the first round of the NFL draft. Just four starting quarterbacks selected in round 3 or later. And 9 of those 26 were actually the number 1 overall pick. So it just goes to show you where quarterbacks come from. You got to get one. If you're going to get one early. And we're going to talk about some quarterbacks here in these college football matchups that are on the NFL radar. So let's do it, shall we? All right. Now, I mentioned Illinois, Indiana, Texas Tech, Utah. We're going to save those for the Saturday show. Our guy Russ Landy will be with me each and every Saturday with marquee college football matchups, key prospects that you need to know for the 2026 NFL draft. But today, I want to preview on Saturday the number 22 ranked Auburn versus Oklahoma, who's also ranked 3-0. These two teams are 3-0. The interesting storyline here, and we talked about John Mateer, who is suddenly now second in the Heisman running in terms of the Vegas odds behind Carson Beck. But John Mateer has been playing lights out. He's completing 67% of his passes, 67.6 to be exact, 71 for 105, 944 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns to 3 interceptions, and he's added 161 yards on the ground with 4 scoring touchdowns running the ball. What's interesting here is he's going to face Jackson Arnold at Auburn, who began at Oklahoma. He was a very heralded recruit, 4- or 5-star quarterback, didn't pan out there at Oklahoma. So now he's been starting for Auburn, and he's been doing very, very well. And, you know, he's a little bit shorter at 6 feet, but he's a dual threat in his own right, and he's been running all over the field. He's got 192 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, 4 passing touchdowns. More importantly, no interceptions. Now, he's only got 501 passing yards, but he's playing very efficiently with a 69.6 completion percentage. So this is a very intriguing matchup, especially at the quarterback position. Arnold, I don't think will be drafted. He might be a late day 3 undrafted priority free agent type, but Mateer now, a lot of debate. You know, I see a lot of draftnik analysts want to catapult him up into the first round mix. I don't see that. I see more of a playmaking point guard type of quarterback who's pretty raw in terms of being able to read through his progressions and passing technique, like I think there's a long ways to go for John Mateer yet for him to be considered a first round quarterback, but he certainly has improved his draft stock, hasn't he? And we've mentioned his big play wide receiver, Deion Burks, who I think is a top 50 prospect for the upcoming draft. He's got 17 catches for 255 yards and a pair of touchdowns already. And then Jaron Kanak, the tight end, he's actually rising up our big board. We updated the tight end rankings, top 30 at each position. He's got 14 catches for 245 yards. And then our Mason Thomas, a little undersized pass rusher there, very productive. I think 9.5 sacks a year ago. He's still searching for his first sack, and he's going to have his hands full trying to track down Jackson Arnold. Okay, one other guy for Auburn to keep an eye on, Eric Singleton, kind of a gadget wide receiver. He's got 13 catches, 149 receiving yards, a pair of touchdowns, but he's also lining up in the backfield, being used on end arounds and reverses. He's got 5 carries for 25 yards. So keep an eye on Eric Singleton. And I can't forget Keldrick Falk, who some people believe is possibly the best edge rusher in this year's draft. And he's been just tearing it up all over the field. 8 tackles, a sack, 2 pass deflections, getting his hands on the ball, getting his hands on the quarterback, applying that pressure. Keldrick Falk, probably the top-rated prospect in this Auburn at Oklahoma game. And this is going to be a close matchup. I think it's going to go down to the wire. Should be a fun one to watch. All right, let's talk about Michigan, 2-1, traveling into Lincoln to take on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, 3-0. We spent some time. Was it earlier this week? I think it was maybe Monday. We talked about Matt Rule just lighting into his team at the halftime. They were up 33-0, and it just wasn't good enough for him. But what's intriguing here is the quarterback matchup, not for the 2026 NFL draft, but 2 signal callers who we could be talking about as the potential number 1 overall pick in the 2027 and 2028 drafts. Because for Michigan, the fabulous freshman who is Bryce Underwood, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride, but man, you just see him flash the talent. Obviously a great runner. He's got over 100 yards rushing, averaging 7.7 yards per carry, 2 rushing touchdowns. All right, passing the ball, he needs to find the receiver a little bit more efficiently and accurately. He's 46-80, completing 57% of his passes and for 628 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. But that's to be expected as a true freshman starter. You got to like what you've seen. And, I do the Sports Rage podcast every Tuesday with my good friend Gabriel Morency, and he was enlightening me about the recruitment of Bryce Underwood, who really did not want to come to Michigan when Jim Harbaugh was there because of their propensity to run the ball, right? And you saw J.J. McCarthy's senior year, they barely threw the ball. So once Sharon Moore came into the equation, they were able to land Underwood, and he'll be going up against baby Mahomes, Dylan Raiola. This guy is almost like a spitting image of Patrick Mahomes, the arm angles, the mobility, the ability to improvise. He has really elevated his game. I don't think enough people are talking about Dominic Raiola, and I don't know if Nebraska is going to be able to keep him there with the whole NIL situation, but man, 72-94, he's completing 76.6% of his passes, 829 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, he is playing lights out. All right, that baby Mahomes. He'll be targeting his big play wide receiver, Dane Key, who's got 13 catches, $190, 3 touchdowns, and he's a potential day 3 candidate for the NFL draft. On the Michigan side of the ball, I'm a big fan of this Justice Haynes. He's got 388 rushing yards. He's averaging 7.8 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns, very compact, physical, hard-nosed runner. He can really pound it between the tackles. And, Blake Corum was a pretty good running back. I don't know, Justice Haynes, I have him pretty highly rated in terms of his draft stock. I believe he's right around that top 5 on our running back big board. Of course, you can go over to allaccessfootball.com and get all of our big board updates that we've been providing throughout the week. All right. How about Tulane at Ole Miss? 3:30 ESPN. You might want to tune into this one because the Rebels here, I'm down here at the Jersey Shore, and I'm going to tell them, swim at your own risk against this Tulane Green Wave, because they are just rolling into Oxford, a 3-game winning streak. They've beaten 2 power conference opponents, and say what you want, Northwestern and Duke, they might not be the blue blood programs, but they are in P4 conferences. And Tulane, who's a mid-major program, is taking care of business. They beat Northwestern handedly, 23-3. They beat Duke 34-27. They also have a win over South Alabama 33-31. But in terms of mid-majors, if Tulane can pull off the upset here in Oxford against Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, and the Rebels are ranked 13th in the nation, they're in first place in the SEC. I mean, this arguably could be the biggest win in Tulane school history if they can pull it out, right? Now, Ole Miss, they've been playing some nail biters. They eked out Kentucky 30-23. They eked out Arkansas 41-35. The defense a little bit shaky there. Lane's pop Monty wouldn't be so proud of him the way the defense is playing. And what's interesting here is Jake Retzlaff, the Tulane quarterback. If you're not familiar with his story, okay, he was kicked off of the BYU team, I believe it was, for admitting to premarital sex. Okay, that's a no-no over there at BYU. So he admitted to premarital sex, and that's because he had rape allegations against him. Okay, now those rape allegations were dismissed with prejudice. Okay, and that means something for those who know, basically saying the plaintiff was not credible. Okay, so when it gets dismissed with prejudice, that means this was not a credible witness. She just made up the story. So Jake Retzlaff denied of any rape allegations. However, he was kicked off of the football team. He finds a home in Tulane, and he had 3,000 passing yards, just under 3,000 passing yards at BYU last year, 400 rushing yards, and 26 total touchdowns. Now he's got the green wave, like I said, rolling. He's completing 60% of his passes, 522 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and running the ball quite well, very efficiently. 6 rushing touchdowns, 288 rushing yards. So Jake Retzlaff for Tulane, they might come in and pull out the upset special alert. Okay, but his backstory, very, very interesting. For Ole Miss, they got a handful of guys in terms of potential high picks. Xavier Harris, one of the top defensive tackle prospects in the nation. He's been playing lights out. 17 tackles, a pair of sacks, interception, pass deflection. The big man in the middle just rumbling, bumbling, stumbling, and he'll have his hands full trying to chase down Retzlaff. Also, Suntarine Perkins, 11 tackles, still looking for his first sack. I think he had 9 last year. But what was interesting is and Ole Miss had a slew of defensive guys at the combine last year. And when I spoke to the Ole Miss players, I always try to get a name for next year. Who's a guy that's going to bust out? Who's a guy that NFL teams are going to love? It was a consensus. Almost every single Ole Miss player said Suntarine Perkins, who's waiting for a bust-out game. Maybe it'll come this week. Harrison Wallace III, 339 receiving yards, making big play after big plays, averaging 22.6 yards per catch. That's pretty impressive with a pair of touchdowns. So just a couple of names to keep an eye on for this Tulane at Ole Miss game, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN on Saturday. Okay, moving right along. We have the Florida Gators, 1-2 at the Miami Hurricanes, 3-0. Miami ranked number 4 in the nation. This one's going to be 7:30 p.m. on ABC. Excuse me. And I'll tell you what, we've talked at length on this show about Billy Napier, clearly on the hot seat. The cat calls down in Gainesville. They want John Gruden to come in and assume the position, but we'll see, if the Gators can keep it close, keep it competitive at Miami. And I'll tell you, this this Gators schedule is just a gauntlet. Of course, they lost to USF, then they lost to LSU last week with the Brian Kelly post-game rant. I saw he came out and apologized this week. Don't apologize, just be you. We know you're a jerk. But this Florida Gators schedule is a gauntlet, man. Because after Miami, they face Texas and then Texas A&M. So there are no gimmies in the SEC. This Florida schedule, I don't know if Billy Napier is going to survive that stretch. But DJ Lagway playing very disappointing, and this was a quarterback that people expected to be in contention as a top signal caller for the 2027 NFL draft. He just has not played that way. All right, now he's completed 71% of his passes, 629 yards, 5 touchdowns, but 6 costly interceptions. And when you turn the ball over, as the Gators are finding out, hard to win ball games. So DJ Lagway is going to have to step his game up. We've spoken about Tyreek Sapp, the edge rusher there at Florida, the nephew of Warren Sapp, also coached by Jason Taylor down at St. Thomas Aquinas. So talk about NFL bloodlines, NFL pedigree, being coached by NFL Pro Football Hall of Famer. Uh, you know, Tyreek Sapp, very impressive player, 8 tackles, a sack, 2 tackles for loss, a pass breakup. He's going to be trying to hunt down Carson Beck, who we mentioned on yesterday's show is now the leading candidate in terms of the Vegas odds to win the Heisman Trophy. Pretty good odds, plus 700 for the front runner. Not a bad investment if you're into those kind of things. And he's completing damn near 80% of his passes, 79.3 to be exact, 812 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The only quarterback playing better is probably baby Mahomes there in Nebraska, baby Dominic Raiola. Right. But Rayola is not going to be draft eligible until next year. So Beck, he comes in flying high. I mean, we've got a first round grade on him. That has never wavered. I know a lot of people out there talking about he's rising up draft boards, but trust me when I tell you, he was a first round pick coming into the season. He was a first round pick last season. NFL teams never wavered off of that. And quite frankly, in terms of being ready for the next level, I would put Beck right there with Garrett Nussmeier, right? And Nussmeier, he's nursing the torso injury. He's got the patellar knee injury. Lenora Sellers has got the concussion. There's a chance here now for Carson Beck to really steal the limelight and try to make a statement in terms of being the number one pro prospect at the quarterback position. Now, his running back, it's starting to grow on me. This Mark Fletcher looking real good. He's got 272 rushing yards, averaging 6.5 a carry, 4 touchdowns there, another receiving touchdown out of the backfield. And one guy I want to highlight that is probably not on your radar, but I happen to know about him because I used to cover UConn for UConn Illustrated and, been to countless dozens of practices for the Huskies. And one person I got to know pretty well is Keelan Marion. Okay. This young man, arguably the best kick returner in college football. He is electric and he's got tremendous speed. He's also not a very bad wide receiver. Unfortunately, injuries have just been hindering him. He's just one of these guys, these smaller, speedy wide receivers. You got to worry about the hamstrings. He's just always popping up on that injury report. But when he is healthy, that's a dangerous weapon. And I'll tell you what, I don't know if he gets drafted, but he's going to get a good, hard, long look at the next level because of his return capabilities, that Keelan Marion. All right. On the defensive side of the ball, all right, we talked about Tyreek Sapp on the Florida side. Well, how about Ruben Bain on the Miami side? 15 tackles, 1.5 sacks, an interception, a pass deflection, a forced fumble. I mean, Ruben Bain has really made a statement himself in his own right early on in the season. And we've talked about the Canadian product, Akeem Messidor, defensive tackle. He brings some pass rush from the interior. In fact, he's got a pair of sacks already this season, including 13 tackles overall. So the in-state battle of Florida, Miami, Florida, 7:30 p.m. This one's going to be on ABC, okay? One more for you. Let's go over to the late night show over on Fox, 11 p.m. I'm not talking about Jimmy Kimmel neither. 11 p.m. Fox, Michigan State 3-0 at USC 3-0. USC finally back in the top 25, coming in at number 25. And this Aiden Childs for Michigan State, has really improved as a passer this year. He's had some accuracy issues in the past, but he's completing 71.6% of his passes. Pretty impressive there. 656 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, also a dual threat quarterback. And Michigan State's playing very good football. I mean, the Spartans now back from the ashes looking to make their own statement in Los Angeles. But USC, Jaden Maeva doesn't really get talked about a lot. But anytime you got a Lincoln Riley signal caller, you gotta really pay close attention. And Maeva's been playing well. He's got 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, if he doesn't lead the nation in passing yardage, he's got to be right up there with 989 passing yards, completing 68.6% of his passes. In terms of a pro prospect, he's probably a late round undrafted free agent category, but that could change. USC keeps winning, putting up points. He keeps playing efficiently. There could be some appeal there with Jaden Maeva. Now, one guy who was not on my radar coming into the season, but has just been shot out of a cannon is Wayman Jordan. Okay. He assumes the position for Woody Marks, who we talked about this week, doing big Willie things for the Houston Texans. But Wayman Jordan, 286 rushing yards, averaging 7.3 per carry, 3 touchdowns. He's got a trifecta of scores. Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane. This might be the most impressive wide receiver duo in all of college football. You got the shorter, speedier Lemon, who's got 311 receiving yards, a pair of touchdowns, and then Jacoby Lane, who, he looks like Megatron just from a body frame, vertical game, length, size, and explosive. He's, both of these guys are explosive. Now, Lane, he's got 239 receiving yards and a pair of touchdowns, but he's averaging 26.6 yards per catch. That's pretty remarkable. Lemon, not bad either, 19.4 yards per catch. So Maeva going to be looking to air it out against Michigan State. This one could be a track meet. They've also got a good-looking tight end in Lake McRae. And McRae, he's not too shabby either. He's at the tight end is averaging 24.7 yards per catch. He's got 173 yards and a touchdown. And over on the defensive side of the ball, there's a pair of defenders that I have an affinity for. And Eric Gentry, the linebacker, he can play off ball. He can blitz. He can do a lot of different things. He leads the team with 21 tackles, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Now, I do believe he did have some concussion issues there last season. And in fact, I think if I remember correctly, he had to shut it down due to those concussions. So that's something to keep an eye on. That's pretty serious stuff here when you're talking about next level NFL draft prospects. But really a good looking player, man. Can play any linebacker spot. And then Kamari Ramsey, man, this guy just body beautiful, ideal frame, very physical, aggressive. He's been asked to play out of position now a lot because the USC defense, they've been bit by the injury bug. And so they've got Kamari Ramsey actually lining up a lot in the slot, playing cornerback on the inside there. And he's done very well. He's actually a very good cover man-to-man coverage. So he's displaying his versatility, always a bonus at the next level, can play safety, can play corner. And he too has been hindered by some injuries in the past. So we'll keep an eye on Eric Gentry and Kamari Ramsey in that late night edition on Fox. We're not talking Jimmy Kimmel. We're talking Michigan State and USC, 11 p.m. on Fox. All right. So just a few college football games there for you to marinate on. And, I mentioned USC. They made the top 25 rankings back in the fold. And I didn't get to it. I think it was last week I was trying to get to it with the pole girl. Did you guys see the pole girl? I'm not talking about the strip club, guys. Pipe her down. The pole girl, the girl that actually had Florida ranked higher after their loss. I think it was they lost to USF, and she had Florida jumping up in the poll, and they asked her about her process, and she's like, yeah, it's really fun, but I don't really want to get into my process right now. And the whole interview was such a debacle. It's like, you know what? Just own the mistake. Tell us you didn't check the box scores. You were lazy. You submitted your vote. But this is why they need to abolish the AP top 25 poll. because you got idiots voting. They don't even take this seriously. Okay. And it's disrespectful. Disrespectful to the game, disrespectful to your fellow media who do take it serious, and disrespectful to the college football programs who are trying to recruit and be ranked. And you know what? Quite frankly, I'm not sure that the AP poll means anything anymore, because the college football playoff committee comes in and does their own thing anyway. They could care less about the AP poll. I'm starting to feel the same way. In fact, I'm looking at you, college football playoff committee. Why are you so lazy? Why aren't you having year-round rankings? I mean, what is this? We wait till 2 months into the season to unveil the college football playoff rankings? Why don't you step your game up? Because really, those are the only polls that do matter. All right. We'll end the B block on that note here. I am Rick Saratella. You're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show. We're live each and every day, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 days a week. It's your home for real football talk. Just a quick programming reminder. Tomorrow, NFL Draft Bible Familia will be in, not the building, but on the live stream. Bo Marchant checking in from Cleveland. Of course, Hamilton Tiger Cat Scout will talk some CFL on tomorrow's show. He also covers the Pittsburgh Steelers. He gets over to a lot of the Pittsburgh games, the Pitt Panthers games as well. And they got a nice quarterback in Eli Holston, a redshirt sophomore who is draft eligible and is moving up draft board. So we'll have Bo Marchant on tomorrow's show. That'll be Friday. Saturday, if you just like this segment, we really get even further into the draft talk with Russ Landy, the former NFL, XFL, and CFL scout. That's every Saturday during the regular season. It's a college football pregame show with the NFL draft slant. And then Sunday, whew, man, was so much fun. I was all riled up this past week. I mean, I'm bouncing off the walls. I told you, call me the ostrich. Early bird gets the worm. We're sticking our neck out on the line. I've been up at it today since 2 a.m. bringing you today's show in the laboratory. But Sunday is so much fun because we are 21-11 against the spread through the first 2 weeks of NFL action. So buckle up and hunker down for that. Great to see the Grueling Truth Sports Network in the house, giving us a little love in the chat room. By the way, you know, we have not been able to get the chat room flowing on the live stream, but I did happen to stumble across all the comments that you guys are leaving on the YouTube channel. And we appreciate that too. The good, the bad, the ugly. In fact, if we have time at the end of the show, some of them are pretty funny too. Don't worry, I got thick skin. I can take insults. If we have time at the end of the show, maybe we'll get to some of the comments from around the world here on the All Access Football Daily Show. Just a reminder, All Access Football world famous newsletter was published yesterday. That's read by 50,000 subscribers from 70 countries around the world and all 32 NFL teams. So if you're not subscribed yet, what are we doing? Do you love football? I sure do. I hope it shines through. We thank you for welcoming us into your living room, and we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back right after this. Hey, RIC and a place to be. Rick Saratella checking in from the legendary Jersey Shore for the world famous Access Football, and you're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show, our newest venture here at the world famous All Access Football, read by all 32 NFL teams and 50,000 subscribers from around the world. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work in this great game of football for the past 2 decades. It's our 24th season of providing you independent analysis when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin, whether it's the NFL, college football, NFL draft, CFL, UFL. We'll be with you each step of the way, especially for draft season when we really get into high mode. Of course, it's all brought to you by the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, published in April, featuring over 500 in-depth scouting reports with our boots-on-the-ground analysis. We'll be on location at the All-Star Games, the NFL Scouting Combine, the Pro Day Circuit, counting you down to that 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. And be sure you check us out over at allaccessfootball.com. We've got a great promo discount for you listeners at home. If you enter our promo code RICVIP, you'll get a 30% discount off of all of our premium content. You'll unlock the magic, get our NFL Draft insider reports, scouting notebook. Of course, the World Football All Access Football Report published on Wednesday. It's your new home for real football talk. So follow along, give us a shout. We hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and we'll be with you each and every day here, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off. Rain, sleet, hail, snow, the show must go on. For Rick Saratella and the All Access Football Daily Show, keep it locked, everybody. All right, back at it again. All right, seeing a place to be here on the All Access Football Daily Show. And I'll tell you, man, this hour of power just flies by each and every day, doesn't it? I can't believe it. It's already 10:53. It's time for predictions. We got a game tonight, Thursday night football. Rice and Charlotte playing tonight. Really a know-nothing game. Not too many prospects to highlight there. So we'll skip that because it's not worth your viewing pleasure. Also, tomorrow, Tulsa, Oklahoma State, and Rutgers, Iowa. I will have prospect previews for you on tomorrow's show during the B block, and of course, Beau Marchant during the C block. We just did a 30-minute segment. Our time just got carried away with the college football landscape. Broke down some excellent matchups with some names you need to know in the last segment. So make sure you go back and watch the whole episode if you're just tuning in now. Of course, the A block, we went around the NFL with the latest quarterback carousel, injury updates, everything you need to know there to get you ready for the upcoming NFL weekend. And I did mention 21-11 through the first 2 weeks of NFL action against the spread. And we got one tonight on Thursday Night Football between the Miami Dolphins 0-2 at the Buffalo Bills 2-0. Possibly Mike McDaniel's swan song. We talked about how banged up these Miami Dolphins are. By the way, I have it at 11.5, over under 50.5. I saw Pro Football Talk say it's the biggest spread of the football season, and it's gone up to 12.5 in some spots. But I saw it at 11.5, so we'll go with that. Prediction at the end. For Miami, they're down now. Week 1, they were up to 17 players on the injury report. This week, they're down to 10, but still a slew of players who are going to miss this game. Cornerback Storm Duck is out. Melifonwu, the safety, is out. Chop Robinson, the edge rusher, is questionable. Jalen Waddle is questionable with the shoulder. Darren Waller is out. He's probably going to be released. He could get his pink slip along with Mike McDaniel. Benito Jones, defensive lineman, also questionable for the Miami Dolphins. Buffalo's nursing some injuries as well. Both Matt Milano, the playmaking linebacker, and Ed Oliver, who's been playing very well this season, are going to miss this game. Look out for TJ Sanders, the young player out of South Carolina there to step in for Ed Oliver. Now, linebacker Shaq Thompson also out for the Buffalo Bills, and the secondary, Tyron Johnson and Cam Lewis, are questionable. So Tua maybe going to be looking to exploit that thin secondary should those corners not be able to go. And Tyreek Hill, he had 109 yards receiving last week. That was his 37th career game of exceeding 100 yards. And, his stats are compiling now. So pretty good resume, statistically speaking. Bradley Chubb for the Dolphins, back-to-back weeks with a sack. Of course, Buffalo, Josh Allen, I mean, what more do you want? 7-0 on Thursday Night Football. In fact, the Bills have won 12 straight home games, which is the longest streak currently in the NFL. Miami leads the series all time, 61-56, one tie. But Buffalo has won 12 of the last 13 games between the Bills and the Dolphins. They have dominated Miami, and I think you're going to see more domination by Josh Allen, more domination by James Cook, who had a $132 last week with a pair of touchdowns, and more domination from Joey Bosa, who had 2 forced fumbles and a sack last week. He's been playing phenomenal for the Buffalo Bills. All right, listen, this game is 11.5 for a reason. And I hate to see anybody lose their job, but Mike McDaniel has brought this upon himself. It's not a very tough team. It was predicated on speed. I think early on in his young coaching career, the league was still trying to figure it out. Now that they've caught up to him and have adjusted, the Dolphins aren't so potent. And they do go as Tua goes, but I just think they're going to be outmanned, outpowered. And you know what? I made the mistake of taking the points last week with the Cleveland Browns against the Baltimore Ravens. I'm not going to make that same mistake this week. This has got blowout written all over it. Give me Buffalo 34, Miami 13. And tomorrow we could very well be leading off the show with Mike McDaniel's firing. Could very well happen. So that's my prediction for Thursday Night Football. We're going to try to get off on the right note. We dropped the Thursday Night Football game last week, so we'll try to do better this week. Again, 21-11 against the spread through the first 2 weeks. Try to get up 1-0 on the board. We'll come back tomorrow and talk about it, be about it. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's show. Love seeing the Elks herd in the chat room. Much love to my man Scout. Love you too, brother. Appreciate the comments. Appreciate the feedback. While you're here, guys, please smash that like button, share it, subscribe it. We're going to be posting all of our interviews on the YouTube channel, isolated. You can go back and watch the Howard Balzer segment from yesterday. Today I was flying solo. Tomorrow we'll have Bo Marchant. There's also a lot of good reels up on the YouTube page. So we appreciate all the love and support. And we're here live 7 days a week, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off. The sun is coming out here at the Jersey Shore. I might have to go take a dip in the ocean. But hey, buckle up, hunker down. Tune back in tomorrow. It's going to be a Football Friday affair with the NFL Draft Bible Familia, Bo Marchant, for the All Access Football Show. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, RIC in a place to be. Rick Saratella checking in from the legendary Jersey Shore for the world-famous All Access Football, and you're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show, our newest venture here at the world-famous All Access Football, read by all 32 NFL teams and 50,000 subscribers from around the world. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work in this great game of football for the past 2 decades. It's our 24th season of providing you independent analysis when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin, whether it's the NFL, college football, NFL draft, CFL, UFL. We'll be with you each step of the way, especially for draft season when we really get into high mode. Of course, it's all brought to you by the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, published in April, featuring over 500 in-depth scouting reports with our boots-on-the-ground analysis. We'll be on location at the All-Star Games, the NFL Scouting Combine, the Pro Day circuit, counting you down to that 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. And be sure you check us out over at allaccessfootball.com. We've got a great promo discount for you listeners at home. If you enter our promo code RICVIP, you'll get a 30% discount off of all of our premium content. You'll unlock the magic. Get our NFL Draft Insider Reports, Scouting Notebook, of course, the World Football All Access Football Report, published on Wednesday. It's your new home for real football talk. So follow along, give us a shout. We hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and we'll be with you each and every day here, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off, rain, sleet, hail, snow. The show must go on. For Rick Saratella and the All Access Football Daily Show, keep it locked, everybody.
football.
Let's play frisbee with